Hello and welcome to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I am Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
Before we dive into who our guest is today, Joe's going to remind us of our show's purpose.
Our show's purpose is to connect Rotarians and non-Rotarians to service opportunities. And really how we do that is by having amazing guests on the show that share their experience, share how they got involved in volunteering and in service projects in different organizations. It's been a pretty fun ride of all the things that we've had, but to really expose people to, more than just their club, if they're Rotarians, or that there's just a ton of opportunities within Rotary to get involved and to be motorized in service.
That's a good one.
Motorized. I don't know.
There's several ways to incorporate that in.
Mobilized, motorized,
yeah, good job.
Whatever.
Well, let's introduce who our guest is today for Searching for Service. We have with us, really excited about this interview, actually. So we have Kate Van Slyck, who is actually a new Rotarian. And so we're going to have conversations around how she found Rotary, how she got involved, what caused her to make that transition into Rotary. And so before we go into all of that, Kate, we really want to get to know you as a person. And so my first question for you is, where do you live?
Hi, thank you so much for having me on the show today. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay, wonderful. And have you always lived here?
No, we've only lived here for about 2.5 years.
Okay. And where were you at before that?
Before Minneapolis, my husband and I and our 2 kids lived in Arlington, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. for about 23, 24 years.
Okay.
And then we found our way out here, which is where my husband's family is from.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I was going to say, just found your way out here.
Yeah.
You were lost.
Usually there's a reason people decide to commit to the cooler climate here in the Midwest.
It's very, very
valid reason.
Yes. And it will find its way into today's stories.
Beautiful. Love it. And so you have a family, obviously your husband, and any other family members?
Well, I have 4 in-laws here in Minneapolis, and some of their kids.
Beautiful.
And I'm from the East Coast, so I have a brother and sister on the East Coast, and actually another brother from the East Coast and another one that moved to Europe. So we're kind of spread out everywhere, actually.
Love it. Wonderful.
What's been your favorite thing about Minnesota?
I love the summer and the fall.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that I can ride my bike to a lake and jump in and swim. Just having that here in a city is phenomenal.
Yeah, it sounds so cliche, right? Like land of 10,000 lakes, but it's legit, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're here in the Twin Cities metro area, there's so many different lakes where there's just so much outdoorsy stuff that you can do around it, not just walking around it. So it's kind of the beauty of the area that we're in. And isn't Minnesota or the Twin Cities known for
bike paths?
No, the amount of people who actually even from summer to the transition into fall and winter, they still make it a point to be out and exercising and moving their bodies. So
we're always first or second.
Yeah,
bike paths
we've got the opportunities to do it still. So
yeah, I think the rigor of just everybody's sense of just get out there and exercise, and also I just love how they celebrate spring, summer with their gardening. I mean, they really bring out the colors because I think they're just celebrating warm weather.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And I think that we can kind of pivot into a little bit about what we want to talk about for the interview. So thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. We really would love to hear kind of your timeline of service because it's pretty unique and cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our listeners are going to identify well with it. And then also how you found Rotary at the end of that tunnel and and how you've just begun your journey in Rotary. So why don't we just start out with kind of how did you get started in service?
I think I know that my family, when I was growing up, dabbled in service, but it wasn't like it wasn't the centerpiece of everything that we did or what we did. I mean, we did things with our church, scouts, that kind of thing. But I think I really started to embrace service after I graduated from college, because I graduated with a BA in English literature, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I ended up applying to the Peace Corps, because one thing my family actually did instill in me is love of travel and curiosity about the world. So that kind of propelled me into a structured kind of way to see another part of the world. And I was excited about being in another culture, learning other languages. And so that was my main motivation. And helping people along the way, of course. I was an agriculture volunteer in the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, which is in West Africa.
Yep. Yeah, we have a Rotary member in our club that's from Mauritania.
Oh.
Bokar, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow, great.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know where it was. I'd never heard of it when I was invited, but I greatly accepted it because I had been waiting for 9 months. And so I went, and it's a very dry country. It's Sahel and Sahara. In 1987, when I arrived, there'd already been a drought for 15 years. And so my job was to work with people who had previously been nomadic herders and were now sedentary because their animals had died because of the drought. And I was supposed to be introducing vegetables into their diets and helping them with fruit tree propagation. And so I did not have an agriculture degree. I told you I got a BA in English literature.
Yeah.
The Peace Corps worked really hard to get me ready to do this.
My gosh. So what did that process look like, out of curiosity?
Well, we had a fun 2.5 months down in South Carolina, just off of Beaufort, South Carolina. There are a series of islands, and I was on St. Helena Island, where there is the Gullah people live there. And these are people that came from Africa, settled there, worked there, but maintained a lot of their culture and their language. And there's a center there that was a school that was one of the first, if not the first, school opened for African Americans. And that was our training site. It was called a Penn Center. And it was 2.5 months of learning all about agriculture. So
got a little crash course in agriculture.
Like drinking from a fire hose.
And probably specifically how you were going to help educate the people that we were helping with the Peace Corps, right? Like specifically, you were talking about some fruit plants and integrating vegetables into the diet. And what were some of the outcomes of that education? Did you find that it was helpful? Was it received? Was it challenging?
It was certainly helpful. I mean, the training continued in the country, because then we had to learn about how to do everything that we learned in South Carolina in a desert. So we had another, 2 more months of training in country, and it was challenging. And we got language training as well. So I was learning a dialect of Arabic and French as well, because it's a former French colony. And yeah, I mean, I learned a lot. I think it was a challenging post, to be quite honest with you. They put me in a site that was very remote. And, you know, I walked across sand dunes to get from village to village and carrying all my stuff. And it was physically challenging, even for a 25-year-old.
Do you have a quick story that you can, well, actually, you know what? We got a minute and a half. I'm like, holy smokes, that was a quick burst.
How about this?
We'll go into the next segment with a story. I'd love to hear a story specifically about how, like maybe somebody that you helped specifically that it really changed their life. That'd be really cool to hear.
But I do want to say, I bet that had to have been a bit of a culture shock for you. And so maybe something else we can talk about in that next segment too is just overcoming what that had to look like for yourself, and then kind of repositioning yourself to go, okay, I'm just going to pull myself together, because what else am I supposed to do in this situation? You know what I mean? I'm here. So I think that we've got some really good, fruitful information that we can roll into this next segment, both with stories and then just overcoming some of the adversity that you yourself are experiencing coming from the States and then going over there as well.
Yeah,
sound good?
Yeah. And then coming back.
Yeah. And then coming back too.
Right. The reintroduction. I mean, it's so funny that people talk about that. It's
a process.
Is the process too. Because your eyes were opened and now you're like,
Absolutely. As a reminder, you are listening to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
We'll see you on the next segment. Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
As a reminder, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms, and
you can find us by looking us up and putting in Searching for Service, and you will find us. And when you do, like it, comment, share it, and leave a 5-star review.
Also, we are on YouTube too, so if you can find us over there, you can look us up by typing in Searching for Service.
Yep, and you'll find us, because we are the Searching for Service.
And you can watch us just doing these funny things on video with our guest. And speaking of guest, I want to reintroduce who our guest is. We have Kate Van Slyck on. She's one of the newest Rotarians. By the way, we didn't even ask, so let's start here. Which Rotary Club is it that you decided to join?
So I joined the Uptown, Minneapolis Uptown Rotary Club. I think it's 5960.
Yeah.
I'm really new.
That's 5950.
Yeah, I was going to say
5950.
5950.
Yep.
Yeah. Very nice. So,
again, congratulations and welcome to the family.
Yes. How long have you been a member now?
I think it's been about a month.
New.
Yeah, you're like being immersed in all of it. Have they tapped you on your shoulder to be a part of a committee yet? Are you rolling with the committee yet? Okay. Yes. Have you selected one?
Yeah, I'm helping to bring in speakers. So I'm working with another Rotary member in the group. And I'm excited about that, actually, because I had to ask them.
That's a fun committee. That's a really fun committee because it helps you build those ties to people that are coming into the club and stuff. So that's a good one. Well, should we get back to the amazing stories that we've been hearing of kind of the timeline of your service?
Yeah.
And going into the Peace Corps. I think that's a really fascinating tie, and we can talk a little bit about how the Peace Corps and Rotary connect together, because I'm sure that's part of the reason why you joined Rotary.
Yeah. Well, let's actually pick up where we left off. So can you just remind our listeners where it was that when you were 25, where you served for the Peace Corps?
Sure. I served in the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, which is in the northwestern part of Africa. It's on the coast. It's a pretty big country.
Okay.
And I went over there as an agriculture volunteer with a group of maybe 30 others.
So a pretty good sized group of you.
Yeah, and what I found out was the reason why they have such a big group is that they, at the time, they were the second highest early termination rate of volunteers. It's a challenging place to be. Nepal was the first, and then Mauritania was second. So,
why do you think that is?
It is the desert makes it physically hard to get around.
Yeah.
There was one paved road and it always had sand all over it. And, no electricity, no running water, and very, very remote sites. And,
sure.
You're by yourself for an extended period of time. And that was before cell phones. And,
Oh, sure. I imagine that's completely, you're completely isolated.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be really curious, like, what was the biggest, like, moment for you where you were like, this was totally worth it?
I'll be honest with you. My first year, which is the transitional year, I mean, we do 2 years in country because it takes a while to transition and become comfortable and adapt, and for people to trust you once you're there, the community. So, but I spent my first year really struggling with reaching everybody that I needed to reach because it was really a hard slog between villages. And even within the village that I lived, it was sand dunes around a palmery, which was at the bottom of all the sand dunes. So getting from section to section in my village, my single village, would take me a week, to just see everybody just there, or longer, 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But I mean, I was able to connect with some people. Another issue, I think, is that a lot of the able-bodied people had left the remote sites and gone to the capital city or other countries in Africa or Europe to find work. So when I arrived at site, it was the elderly, moms with kids, and slaves. They had just abolished slavery in Mauritania in 1981, and I arrived in 87. So I worked a lot with slaves of families there, and some elderly people who were still kind of gardening, but it was not who I thought I was going to be with.
Okay.
So it took a lot getting used to that, and also helping people transition to better food, healthier food options. So I was eating wheat couscous and camel milk or cow's milk or goat's milk every day, maybe with a few black-eyed peas thrown in at lunch. But it was really limited diet. So I think a lot of volunteers didn't like that.
Remote desert.
Good weight loss program there.
Yeah.
No, unbelievably.
Food accessibility.
I'm not hearing a lot of ice cream or.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Certainly puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So how long did you spend in the Peace Corps? Just the 2 years, the one stint, and then you said that you did a second stint, correct?
Yeah. So it was about 2 years plus 4 months of training.
Yep.
And then I came home, and that integration back here was challenging. I remember getting picked up at the airport in New York City by my dad and driving into the city and walking down the street and seeing these guys from Senegal with big jackets selling watches, and me going up to them and greeting them in Wolof or Soninke. And my father his jaw just dropped. Like, how are you speaking to these people? But I was so attracted to just keeping that connection going with people.
Yeah.
And were you able to do that? Were you able to keep the connection as you came back, or did it start to diminish? Or
I moved to Washington, D.C. almost immediately because
Mhm.
I wanted to be in an international city, with the thought of maybe going back overseas at some point. And I also had a lot of friends back there. So I moved down there, and the Mauritanian embassy is there. There are Mauritanians there, Senegalese, lots of French speaking, and my friends and I just continued to try to keep those connections going, and we did.
So I want to help kind of tie this all in. So going back to Joe's question about like where did you see that pivotal moment that, I mean, really, all I hear from you, Kate, is that like it obviously instilled something in you where you're like, it hit home, right? So where was it? Was there a specific person you were working with, or maybe a specific moment that you had where you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, even though the climate is challenging, even though the environment is challenging, the accessibility to specific things is challenging. You were like, yeah, I'm glad that I did this.
So it was after my first year, and I moved to another village where I could physically walk on more harder ground.
Yeah.
It was really challenging. So I moved to this other village, and everyone there was so gracious and accepting me, a year in. And I hit the ground running. I mean, I had all these ideas. I had to meet everybody and, talk to them. And they were a different group of people that I had been working with, and just seemed even more open to having me work with them. And so that was huge to me. And it was a place where there had been former trainings, agricultural trainings by the U.S. Agency of International Development. So there was an orchard of lime trees and lemon trees. I mean, I never ate lemons and limes before I went to Mauritania, but there I was eating them because I was so excited to have that vitamin C.
So it was couscous, maybe some camel milk or cow milk, maybe some what'd you call it? Black-eyed peas? Is that what you said? Or
black-eyed peas,
and lime juice or lemon juice.
There you go.
I'm kidding.
So
Totally.
I was sold, yeah. And I had
the new
met a
fad.
bunch of great people too.
I can assume that just the receptiveness to actually like, I'm going to help you do this. And them going, okay, we understand why this can help us. And you're like, I feel needed. I feel like there's a desirability there. And that like, when you know that the fruits of your labor are actually it's going to go somewhere. I'm sure that you were like, okay, we're going to be able to make progress here.
Exactly. And they loaned me a horse. I got a camel. I mean, they helped me like get around, and it was all kind of coming together and gelling. So it was
sure.
But something to think about is that first village is you could have been that first person that the next person got to come in, and there was more receptivity in that other village because of you. So I'm going to lay that out there.
There's my husband thinking of all of the possibilities and motivation, positivity. So I appreciate it. Stay tuned. We have so much more that we're going to dive into with Kate. So as a reminder, you are listening to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk. We'll be right back.
Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I am Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
As a reminder, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms. We're also on YouTube, and
you just look us up by
Typing in.
searching for service. Thank you. Oh, good assist. Good team. Just essentially wherever you're looking, just type in searching for service and you'll find us. We are that unique and that awesome.
You will find us on there.
Our beautiful mugs.
Yep, for sure. We have a guest on who I'm just going to do a quick reintroduction of, if you have not been listening to the last two segments, and that is Kate Van Slyck. She is one of the newest Rotarians to the Uptown Rotary Club, and that's located here in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. So we've been learning a ton about Kate, her service in the Peace Corps, some of the stuff that she's had to overcome, and that moment where she was like, aha, this was all worth it.
Well, what I love too, Kate, is a lot of the people that we've had on have done the Rotary Youth Exchange. So they've done the Youth Exchange program, and a very similar story of, there's some cultural challenges. There's, it's just, it really challenges all of your beliefs and understanding of the world, and it expands you, right? Like it creates growth, whether you want to or whether you don't. And so it's been really fun to see the parallel that you experienced in the Peace Corps of that same type of experience.
Yeah.
And then that you were able to then bring that home and you kept it. It's not that you did 2 years in the Peace Corps and then it was like, well, okay, that was great.
That was
and right back to the status quo.
Add that to the resume. But you decided you wanted to do it again, that happened about 4 years ago, correct?
Yes, my husband. So I met my husband in the first stint with Peace Corps.
Aww.
So he was a volunteer as well. He was a health volunteer.
Okay.
And we were married 5 or 6 years after we came home, and we had 2 kids. And I was involved with I was a teacher, and he worked for the federal government, and we were leading very busy lives. But I found ways to get involved, especially in the community. Back in Arlington, Virginia, just because I wanted my kids to feel that sense of community as well.
Yeah,
sure.
But then we decided that we would end our careers with Peace Corps again. So we joined in 2019, and we chose Thailand because that's a place where my mom had lived and I had never visited, and I was very curious about it, and I'd never been to Asia.
Wow. And what a cool way to do it, where you didn't do the same thing again.
Yeah. But I want to go back to where you mentioned that your family had instilled serving plus the love of travel too. And so it's unique to hear, like, one of the places that a family member, your mother, had been to. Now, did she travel there and do some service herself, or was it just an opportunity came up for like a career move?
It was maybe a little bit of both. She went over with a group to do some landscape design work.
Oh, nice.
And then fell in love with Thailand and stayed longer, and then from there kept going. So she loved Asia.
Wow.
I was, regretting at some point that I had never been to visit her. But I was a teenager and, leading my own life and college and all of that. So, but it was great. I mean, it was a really nice opportunity to see, where she'd been.
Very nice. And so you and your husband decided to do another, what would you officially call it with the Peace Corps? What do they call it?
Another tour, another stint,
yeah, another tour. Okay. So
another Peace Corps, service, just additional service. But at this point, I actually went in with expertise and skills. I was a teacher.
Sure.
So I went in and worked with English teachers, and I felt really good being able to come in with solid skills, as opposed to back in my 20s when I had to learn everything that they needed me to do.
Yeah.
So a lot of confidence.
It wasn't quite the same culture shock as the first go around.
No.
Okay. And you had support because you had your husband with you as well. So
Yeah.
that had to have been a little bit nicer. Let me ask you something. If you knew what you know now, would you have done the Peace Corps the first go around again?
I have great friends in general, but the group of friends that we made during that time are family.
Okay.
So yes.
I mean, they
you
are
go through the hell again.
Wow.
We've had 5 reunions or 4 reunions, and it's just, and we take our kids and our kids meet each other. We are family members, and if anybody needs anything, we just help each other out. Doesn't matter where you are. So yeah,
it's cool. And even though you are, you've got maybe a month or so under your belt with Rotary, I'm sure you're finding that there's some commonality there with Rotary, and just that the ability to like step in where you're needed to help out, whether it's for a service project or something has happened with a fellow Rotarian that's a part of your club. And so you step up to help and support them where that's necessary as well. But
well, and
there's a lot of commonalities, it sounds like.
exactly.
And then, so can you explain a little bit of how you decided to join the Rotary family?
Sure. So just if I could I'm just going to speed up. So we went to Thailand, came home during the pandemic.
Yep.
And had a few months to kind of regroup. And then we joined AmeriCorps, and we went to Montana, to Billings, Montana. And we had it for a 1-year service commitment. And we did 7 months there, and we were all remote at that point because the pandemic was still going on in 2020, 21. So we decided to move to Minneapolis. So that's where this piece comes in, just to be near more people because we were lonely in Billings.
Yeah.
And we fulfilled our AmeriCorps service from Minneapolis. And so I said have just been here for 2.5 years. And both of us were looking for ways to integrate ourselves into the community, to give back to the community, to meet people. And, it was slow going at first because the pandemic was still kind of winding down in 2021, 22. Yeah. We were just starting to meet our neighbors, but we were still kind of feeling a little bit lonely. So, yeah, I mean, I stepped it up, I was just like, okay, I need to find a group. I need a group. And I remembered Rotary in Thailand. There was a Rotary connection in a site near me where Japanese Rotary group, had provided some ovens, little cooking ovens that were fabulous. And you'd think, well, why do Thais need ovens? Because a lot of it's, stovetop or whatever. But they love making cakes, little cupcakes. And so I took it and ran with it for American cultural exchange. We made cookies, Christmas cookies, using those ovens.
Adorable.
And the kids loved it. They loved it. And they decorated the cookies, and I never found out, or I should have found out the name of the Japanese Rotary group that did that, but the ovens were fabulous, and I could put it in the car and we could bring it over to our school and then bring it back. So
I bet if you did a little digging, you could probably.
I'm going to.
You could probably narrow it down.
Yes.
Well, and what's so cool to hear is that was something that inspired you, now to go, oh yeah, they gave that was cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to check out Rotary. And then you found a group and you joined. And the rest, they say, is history. And you're a month in. And what's been your favorite part about being part of your Rotary Club?
Well, first of all, when you walk into the room, the first day I walked into the room, I reached out to the president. He said, sure, come to the next meeting. Here it is. Here's when it is. And I went. I mean, everybody said hello. I did not feel awkward for 1 second, or unseen. And it was really, like welcome me in and, give me name tag and kind of talk to me to hear about who I am and how I found them. And it's continued in that way. And I just noticed how they talk to one another. They're just really, really, really kind. And they really want to know how you are, and I appreciate that.
I've always found that it's a room of a lot of listeners.
Yeah.
And that's really great because that's how you find commonality in people and figuring out how to serve, your community. So we've got a couple seconds here before we wrap this third segment and go into the fourth segment, which will be fun. We'll talk about the kind of what you're looking forward to in terms of the future with your Rotary, with maybe other service types of things that you're looking at doing. But we're really excited to hear more. This has been really fun to hear about your journey to Rotary.
Yeah.
It's been a long and windy one, that's for sure.
It has been. As a reminder, you are listening to Searching for Service. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk. We'll see you on the flip side.
Hello and welcome back to the best show ever, Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950 and 5960. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
As a reminder, you can find us on your favorite podcast platforms and
look us up by typing in Searching for Service on any of those platforms, and you're going to find us and our really, really adorable faces.
And we would just absolutely love seeing 5-star reviews.
5-star for sure.
Five
like,
gold stars,
comment,
and
share it.
The nicest reviews ever too. So
and make sure that you tell if you're listening to this and you're finding it valuable and really exciting, make sure to share it with somebody else because we really want to build this audience and keep her going.
Yeah. We have a guest on who is actually a new Rotarian, and we enjoy hearing about new Rotarians and their adventures to finding Rotary. And so our guest today is Kate Van Slyck. If you have not listened to the last 3 segments, I would encourage you to do so because Kate's background is very unique, and her service and what she has done is really incredible. So we've really enjoyed learning more about her and those service components. But for all of you who regularly listen to Searching for Service, you know that in the last segment, we always like to do a little bit of envisioning of what the future can look like. And so, Kate, this is your opportunity. We want to hear from you on what you see for your future as a new Rotarian, where you really would like to see yourself go in regards to being a Rotarian, and then anything else that you'd like to share with us too. But we usually like to just go with the flow. So let's start with how you envision your adventure with Rotary.
So this week actually has been an interesting week. Our club president sent me a link to a webinar that is exploring the partnership between Rotary and Peace Corp.
Oh,
now
we didn't even tee that up. That's
right. Did he or she? I don't know if it's a male or a female. Did she already know your extensive background with the Peace Corp? Okay, so she was like, "Well, who else better than Kate?"
It makes total sense.
Okay, so talk about that.
Yeah, it's so everybody, now you know that I saw evidence of Rotary in my Peace Corps site. And so I thought, I've got to learn more about this. And so for this whole week, every day, there's been a session talking about the evolution of the partnership. So there's an organization called Partnering for Peace, and it's the Rotary Peace Corps connection. And the people that started it were returned Peace Corps volunteers who became Rotarians, or they were Rotarians and joined the Peace Corps after that.
Sure. I can see it going both ways.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's amazing. The people that started out as Rotarians and then joined the Peace Corps later in their life really, I'm sure, brought a whole other lens to the whole experience and resources. So that was kind of interesting to learn about. And I'm frankly, I'm really interested in getting involved perhaps with this organization to figure out a way to support more Peace Corps volunteers in countries that clubs might be interested in supporting or already support.
Yeah, and what's interesting too, and I don't know how much you've been exposed to some of the grant programming and, you know, some of the fundraising component and doing projects and doing a project cooperatively. That could be a really cool opportunity for you guys as well. Yeah, you're kind of scratching the surface, but boy, it sounds like that they got the right person to be involved with that.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say it's interesting because as they talked, they talk about things that I already know. There's a returned Peace Corps volunteer group, like an association group in Minnesota. They're all over the country, but you can find them, and then incoming Peace Corps volunteers sometimes reach out to those groups to ask them questions about the country that they're going to. So it's just this natural flow of just trying to make connections with people, which I think Rotarians do really well. Oh, you should meet this person, or, oh, this person should come speak to us because I know that they do this. There's just lots of networking and connections being made. So,
well, and I think of too, like the Rotary Youth Exchange seems like a really great feeder for the Peace Corps. Like, if they really enjoyed their experience of the exchange and they want to do something where they're serving at a larger level, it sounds like that's a great relationship. Maybe they just got done with college and they're not really sure what they want to do. And, that could be a great relationship too. Yeah, that's really interesting. Like, I guess I never really thought of the relationship. I mean, that relationship makes so much sense.
It really does. I mean, you think of the very essence of Rotary, right? And what they do on an international level, which is something that we on this show have been exposed to so much more.
Yeah.
But then Peace Corps, I know of Peace Corps, but I don't know the full, what it fully entails. But from what I've gathered, it's like it's serving, right? Like you are serving in some way, shape, or form to help support a specific, village or a country or whatever it may look like.
And for an extended period of time.
Yes, and it's not just dropping in for a couple of weeks. It's going in and really making a point to make a change over a 2-year time span.
And Peace Corps volunteers can also help Rotarians, Rotarian clubs, Rotary clubs, make sure that the project that they're interested in doing, whether it's water, clean water, access to clean water, or sanitation or hygiene, and make sure that the right people in the community are involved and that they're helping to design it so that it can be sustainable, because the Peace Corps volunteer is there for a while and can also find counterparts who can then take it on after they leave.
For sure. They provide a little bit more of that of a map, almost like they can help navigate some of that treacherous water that otherwise could, be a little dangerous. So,
do you have any aspirations to be in leadership in your Rotary club?
You're going to have to ask me that again later. I mean, I at this point, I'm still learning the ropes. You mentioned the grants. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about the grants, and I'm going to find out more this next
you can
week.
listen to the show and find out a lot about the grants.
I am going to. I didn't know about the show until today. So, I'm excited to learn more about it. See, I'm not going to rule it out, but I can't commit at this point because I'm still so new.
Yeah, be careful about putting out in the universe too. Like, what's been a commonality we had Stephanie Urchek on here, and she's the incoming president for Rotary International, and we asked her, like, how did you get involved? Like, how did that trajectory start? You just kept saying yes. And it was like, that's just be careful what you utter out into the universe. It tends to find its way to you. So
I have to be careful of that too. My sister once gave me a magnet. I don't know if you can see this. It says, stop me before I volunteer again. So I have to look at that every now and then.
Well, that's how we got here.
Yeah.
So we had the district governor come to our club, and
Lloyd, who you know.
Yep. And he's like, we're looking at starting a radio show and podcast. And I raised Kelly's hand, and then Kelly went ahead and raised my hand, and here we are.
Yep.
And what are we, almost 50 episodes in? I think it is. I mean, gosh, I think we are 50 episodes in.
Nearly a year under our belt. So,
Amazing.
I mean, when you decide to, like, maybe just half raise your hand for something, it just turns into something for you. So.
Well, and it's been as what you could say with the Peace Corp and Rotary so far, is it's been incredibly rewarding. And, service is a lot of fun. And, it's been really amazing hearing your story of service, because, this isn't just a Rotary show. It's about service, and service comes in so many different ways, shape, and forms. And it's so cool to hear how Rotary has been, like, your third or fourth stop on kind of your service journey. And first of all, it's been so cool to hear how you encountered Rotary in the Peace Corps, and it stuck with you. And then the opportunity came for Rotary to be your direct service component. And, it just all ties together. Doing good for other people is just always good.
Yeah.
Well, it makes you feel good. I mean, I have to be honest. I love to serve others. But I love to do that because it makes me feel good. It makes
There's nothing wrong with saying that.
I grow, it helps me grow. And it's,
Well, and let that be just like a kind of the gold nugget. There's so many different gold nuggets that one can take away from just this conversation with you and what you have served, the capacity that you've served. But let that just be something as a takeaway, that in doing service, it's an opportunity to, like, help somebody else, right? But it helps you grow individually as well. I mean, it really does.
And
which is incredible.
And a lot of people would look at that and say, "Oh, that's selfish." No, it isn't. It's filling your own cup so that you can fill other people's cup.
Yes.
There you go.
The sense of joy.
Yep.
So, Kate, really want to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for coming on to Searching for Service. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure here too.
And thank you to all of our listeners. We do appreciate and value you for coming on this journey with us. I'm Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
It's time to stop searching
and start serving. We'll see you.